A mother-son independent journalist team blows the Somali fraud story wide open. Let's check it out. All right, welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. For weeks, we have covered an exploding story in Minnesota, billions in fraud stolen from the American taxpayer, a story the mainstream media has lambasted as racist because it threatens the Democrat Party, and of course, they do the bidding of the Democrat Party. Over the weekend, independent journalists Nick Shirley and his mother, Brooke Shirley, blew the story open all over again by doing what the rest of the media would not do on this story. They actually went to Minneapolis last week. They knocked on the doors of fake, empty, Somali-run child care centers that are stealing an absolute fortune from all of us, from the American taxpayer, a fraud that's clearly been known to high-profile Minnesota Democrats for years. There's no way these people didn't know this was happening. The Shirleys met up with a man who only goes by David, wouldn't give us the last name, in the viral video that's been seen by tens of millions, hundreds of millions now. David has been investigating this fraud for years, and together they hit the streets in a very, very cold city in the dead of winter, and the footage that they got is absolutely incredible.
This is actually 2 daycares are registered here. Between the 2 of these child care centers, they're pulling in about $3 million a year, and there are no children. Every facility as you go to, the windows will be blocked out so you can't see in.
Try to get in, rang the doorbell, nobody showed up. They're open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. it says here on their sign, yet there's absolutely nobody here. Is this your daycare?
No. Can you tell us why there are no children? Have you ever seen children at this child care center?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Daycares everywhere, all over Minneapolis, with no children inside, collecting millions and millions and millions of our dollars, run by Somalians who came to this country spewing sob stories about fleeing oppression, most of whom, more than 80%, immediately registering into our lush welfare programs, while many others also started robbing us blind with scams like these. It's something that's so enraging to the average American taxpayer that, of course, the media machine has to ignore it. And even after this Nick Shirley video went viral on Friday and Saturday, reporting more than 100 million views online was what I just saw last night, there has still not been a peep on this story. Nobody is touching this story, with predictably many, again, calling any attention given to this story racist, of course. To show you the scale of this scandal, the Somali refugees pulling this fraud have found it to be so easy that they have gotten remarkably sloppy as they've done it. There's one daycare. Look at the picture on the screen. You see the N is missing in the word learning, Quality Learning Center. It's Quality Leering Center here. Learning is spelled wrong. They went out and made probably, a 7 by 4 foot sign, and they didn't even spell check it because, yes, apparently it is that easy to steal tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars from the United States federal government. Why, again, do we pay taxes? I really can't tell you. Here's Mara Gay from the New York Times marginalizing the actual story that infuriates all of us. She's actually worried about how Somalian refugees are going to handle being called scammers.
The other factor here is that because it looks like the Somali population in Minnesota, the Somali immigrant population may have been involved in some way, those people are being scapegoated, and that community is being scapegoated in a way that certainly serves the far right. And so that's also something to keep an eye on, and that's inappropriate.
Oh, it's inappropriate. Thanks, Mara. Glad to know that you're the arbiter of what's inappropriate. I think, hundreds of millions of dollars being stolen, billions of dollars being stolen by a refugee community is rather inappropriate, too. You don't see it that way. Of course, the narrative that she's trying to show everybody, right, which is that there's just a small number of people doing this, a small number of Somalian refugees, as Tim Walz says, it may be 80 people out of the 75,000 in Minneapolis were involved in or aware of this scandal. That's what they're trying to sell you tonight. That is ridiculous. This is a remarkably tight-knit community. All they do is hang out with each other. They are a large political bloc, and they know it. They all vote for one party. They are weaponizing their vote every chance they get. They do everything together. They keep their community essentially blocked off from the rest of Minneapolis. And we're talking about billions of dollars, hundreds of millions just in this one daycare scam alone. Does anybody believe that there's just a few dozen Somali refugees living in Minneapolis spending hundreds of millions of dollars by themselves? I don't think you can spend that much money in Minnesota. This money being stolen is propping up that entire community. And unquestionably, they all know that this is going on. They all know it's going on. In fact, reporting from the local Fox affiliate from 7 years ago called it an open secret in that community that these daycare centers are completely fake. These are everywhere. How can you open all of these fake daycare centers? I mean, what happens when people call and they get rejected, saying, no, we don't want your kid here? You don't think anybody's going to notice that? Everybody knew about it. Everybody knew. The politicians knew as well. Empty buildings pulling tens of millions, hundreds of millions from the U.S. government. Hundreds of centers all over Minneapolis that claim to be open every day from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m., and yet no kids are there, and all the windows are blocked out. Nothing going on. Doors locked, no staff, no kids. Everybody knows this is happening.
The government knows they're writing the checks. Yeah, the Democrats over there just writing the checks. What has happened is that the Somali community is a very closed community. They will not speak to anyone outside the community and talk about what's going on within the community. They vote as a bloc. And so when you're a politician, you're saying, look, I've got 100,000 people in Minnesota that if I do something for the community, they're going to vote for me.
There it is. This scandal should be the end of Tim Walz's career at a minimum. The most likely result of all this is that we're going to find that many high-profile Democrats, including Ilhan, including Ellison, were fully aware that this was going on for years. Completely aware. Jacob Fry. But they had zero interest in taking action against an immigrant community that is just so loyal to their party. And who wants to pick on, if you're a liberal, you don't want to pick on, oh, they're victims. They're Somali refugees. You should let them steal all of our money. Again, it's not their money, so why would they care? It's just more of that printed federal money that, by the way, has inflated our cost of living to hell and back, something they complain about all the time. They don't seem to care in this instance. This is why 50 cents of every dollar that you send to the government is wasted. This is why nobody wants to pay taxes in this country. Why would you? The Democrat Party could be the biggest threat to the future of this republic, certainly the fiscal future of this republic, because all they want is more of this. They want more and more government. They want to tell everybody that they can't make it on their own and that you need our money, and they need to give it to you. That's how they get rich. That's how they win. They are furious that this is being looked at. They're furious that this is a story. They've contacted all of their people in the media and said, don't you dare touch this story, which is why nobody's touching it except conservative media. If it's proven that Walz, Ellison, Jacob Fry, Ilhan, these people knew about this, if it is proven, we know they knew. If they can prove it, they belong in prison. The affable Minnesota governor who was so close to the vice presidency, wasn't that amazing to see this moron so close to power? He is now panicking as Americans see for the second time in just over a year that Tim Walz is a complete idiot.
I will fully own this. We should have been keeping Minnesotans more up to speed on what was happening. We should have been, I think, on a better cadence. Look, it's not law-abiding citizens. If that were the case, there's a lot of white men should be holding a lot of white men accountable for the crimes that they have committed.
So immediately he's going to turn it into a race thing. And you wonder who he's talking to when he makes statements this ridiculous, as he has recently been pretending that he's been combating fraud in his state, which is about as laughable as it gets. But what you have to remember is that the kinds of people that vote for Tim Walz and vote for Jacob Fry, these are not intelligent people. Check out this woman outside of a clinic that has been openly stealing millions of dollars in taxpayer money. Take a listen to the interaction that they have with this crazy woman.
Don't open up!
How do you have ice here, ma'am? I'm literally a YouTuber.
Don't open up!
Ma'am, what do you think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
Don't open up! We have ice!
Ma'am, what do you think about this place being licensed for 99 children
Don't open up!
and getting $4 million
Don't
over
open
the
up! It's ice!
$4 million in the last 2 years?
Go away!
What do you think about that? Are you in
Go
favor?
away!
Are you in favor of that?
Go away!
You know where
You're
the-
not welcome here.
Are you-
Shame on you!
When we do the postmortem on this country, it will be white liberal women that took it down, whenever that year is, whenever that happens. Brooke Shirley is an independent journalist. She is also the mom of Nick Shirley. And they've been on the ground in Minneapolis exposing these child care centers together. And they've done a fantastic job. And Brooke, it's great to have you on the show. We thank you for coming on tonight.
Hi.
I know how busy you are.
Thank you.
I just want to
Thank
start
you.
with, hi, yeah, it's good to see you. How widespread? You've now been through the city. How many of these centers, are they just everywhere?
They are everywhere. And we came to Minnesota in June to do a story about how the Somalian population has taken over towns and how mosques are being built everywhere, taking over Lutheran church, Christian churches. So we did a big story about this in June. And while we were here in June, so many people reached out to us and started telling us about the fraud. And at that point, we just said, you know what, this is a whole different story. It's a bigger ballgame than we're involved in right now. We'll have to come back. So we've been researching this for a while. And when we came back this time, the gentleman that's in the video with us, he has been dedicating his past 5 years of his life, which sounds crazy to people, but he is from here. He drives past these businesses every day, and it has just eaten him up. So he, for the past 5 years, has documented this, how much these businesses are making, how many kids should be in these daycares. He's went to tell lawmakers about it. He's been to the Capitol. He's been to Governor Walz's office. He's done everything he can to try to stop this from happening, and nobody listens to him. So he reached out to my son right there. We went there, and, it's investigative reporting, and it's not as easy as people are saying. You just don't walk around with an iPhone and do this. No. It's not that easy, So, and we weren't just here for one day, it's several days of doing this, but what we uncovered in just a few hours was mind-blowing, that these daycares can be operating, and there's no children in there. There's snow on the ground. There's no footprints. There's no playgrounds for people to play on. There's no cars in the parking lot, and all of the windows are covered up. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm a mom. Would I ever in my life send my child to a daycare like that, where you can't even see in? I know there's safety precautions here in the world, but and then how are they making?
It's just yeah. I mean, how there's. Obviously, everybody knows about it. You can't have daycare centers all over a city that have, 5% tints on it, that blacked out, and no kids inside, nobody really working inside.
No,
everybody had to know. I mean, everyone had to know.
People know. If you live here, people know. People know, and people have reached out. People have done everything that they can to stop this, but nobody listens. And for some reason, this video that we made and posted has just went mega viral because it's bringing attention to it. It's not a politician saying it. It's not someone who lives here. It's someone who came from the outside and is showing what is going on. And it's taxpayers, every one of us work hard every day to make a living, and we pay taxes. And where's it going?
Think about, think about the frustration. I mean, if you or I, Brooke, cheated the IRS and our taxes, how fast they would be up our butt. It would blow you away. But you send that money to Washington and look at what they do with it, and they don't even want to hear about fraud. They don't even want to look at it.
No, nobody does, because it's the politicians. The Somalians have figured out a great way to do this. They've mastered this, but it is our government leaders that are the ones writing the checks to them every month. You know, if you could go open a daycare and have, you know, say you have 120 children, you're breaking in $2 million a year, and the government's just sending you the checks, are you going to complain about it? You know, so the Somalians have figured out a perfect way to do this.
Yeah.
And because they are not American, you know, because they're not from here, they have special privileges. If I was to go open a daycare, I would have to obey by all these laws, and they don't. And it's just mind-blowing. And it's not too
and the
hard
Democrat
to
Party would
figure it out.
certainly, and nobody would be protecting you either if you were defrauding the government and the American
No.
taxpayer.
No.
Great work, and I don't think anybody believes that what you guys did was easy. I mean that's
Yeah.
what you guys did. You broke the story wide open. So congratulations to you on that and your son. You guys are working hard. Thanks for doing the hard work.
Yes, thank you so
You
much.
did. Good to see you. Thanks,
Thank
Brooke.
you. Good
We
to see
appreciate
you.
it.
Bye-bye.
All right, Congressman Tom Emmer represents the suburbs to the north and west of Minneapolis, and he joins us tonight. And Congressman, good to have you on. I want to start with just, you know, we've been inundated with so much information about so much fraud in this part of our country and from a certain community in our country. And I just want to know, do you have any doubt in your mind that Democrats, at least some Democrats in that state, in your state, knew that this was going on and just allowed it to happen? Because I think most people feel like people had to have known that this was going on.
Yeah, Rob, good to be with you. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. You do not let $1 billion plus go out of your administration over the last 7 years and somebody not notice. By the way, the U.S. Attorney's Office estimates that the total fraud could rise as high as $9 billion. Again, somebody knew. And the whistleblowers that are coming forward, if in fact what they are saying can be documented and confirmed, look, they're saying that they told Tim Walz about the fraud, and he not only ignored them, he retaliated against them. Rob, if that's true, there's some answering that Tim Walz is going to have to do.
Is something going to happen with that? I think what everybody's worried is that what we see so often in this country is there's a lot of you know letters are written and there's a lot of trash talking, and then at the end of the day nothing actually happens to people like Tim Walz and to these high-profile Democrats that have allowed billions of our dollars to just be stolen and not cared because that community was propping up their political ambition to some extent.
Well, and I think the breadth and depth of this fraud, this scheme that has been going on for years, is a direct result of what you just said, Rob. These people have been getting away with this for years. They've never been held accountable. They've reached a whole new level under Tim Walz and our Attorney General Keith Ellison here in Minnesota. Look, we've known about the daycare fraud since 2017 and 18. The Attorney General at the time, a Democrat, Lori Swanson, was investigating Somali daycare fraud back in 2017 and 18, and she was prosecuting. Guess what? She ran for the Democrat endorsement for governor that year against who else? Tim Walz. She lost. Tim Walz won. His counterpart in the Attorney General's office, Keith Ellison, won. For your viewers, Keith Ellison is the previous representative in Congress who gave us Ilhan Omar. Literally, they're thick as thieves. And what happened is Ellison said as soon as he became Attorney General, there will be no more investigations without my express approval. And Rob, there haven't been any investigations. In fact, it wasn't until our president, Donald J. Trump, actually made this a national issue that people started reporting on it and paying attention to.
That's to me, that sounds criminal. It sounds like Ellison, Walz, these people deserve to be investigated at the criminal level. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Tim Walz knew. If these whistleblowers are confirmed that they're real and that what they're saying can be documented, he should be prosecuted. Keith Ellison should be prosecuted. Others within this administration should be prosecuted.
Yes.
You're talking about $9 billion in U.S. taxpayers and Minnesota taxpayer money. By the way, millions of it going back to Somalia to a known terrorist group, Al-Shabaab. It's criminal.
People hear stories like this and they wonder, why the hell do I pay taxes? Why do I pay taxes in this country? Why do I send money to the IRS if nobody cares about how my money is spent, how it's wasted, how it's abused? If you have politicians that couldn't care less about the money as long as their political ambitions are met, whatever they want, and if that money can be funneled back to them, which a lot of that money, it looks like, was donated back into their coffers, then they don't care. Why would anybody send money to the IRS with stories like this floating around? And it's so blatant, an indication of just how easy this fraud was to commit and how careless is that one learning center that we saw in the reporting from Nick Shirley, who's just an incredible reporter, where the word learning is spelled wrong. And they were so careless, they didn't even think to check, because it was so easy to just open up a place, get the money flowing in. Take a listen to this interaction that he had when he's trying to get his own son enrolled in a daycare center that's really not a daycare center. It's just a front.
Hello, how are you? I would like to see if I could bring little Joey, my son little Joey here. Is there paperwork, or can I check out the daycare? No. Are there children here today?
No.
No children?
Yes.
Why are there no children?
Two of Mexico.
Would my son little Joey have friends to play with here?
No.
No.
Yes.
No friends for little Joey?
Yes. Sorry.
You walk into a business and they don't want your business because it's not a business. Your reaction to that?
I'll tell you what, hats off to Nick Shirley and his colleague who went around and did this. He found more in one day than Tim Walz has found in 7 years. And the reason? He was looking for it. Tim Walz has been looking the other way, and his administration has been looking the other way, while these people have been bilking billions out of Minnesota and sending millions back to al-Shabaab in Somalia. It is criminal what's been going on in Minnesota. And again, I hats off to the president. If he had not raised this to a national level, and I'm so grateful for you reporting on it today, no one, and I'm going to argue the Twin Cities media here in Minnesota are complicit. They're absolutely complicit because they have an obligation as the fourth establishment to literally hold politicians accountable. And they have willingly sat by and allowed this fraud to continue for 7 years under Tim Walz and under the eyes of Keith Ellison, our Attorney General. They should be ashamed of themselves, and God bless the president for raising it. He's now got as many as 9 federal agencies digging into all of the fraud here in Minnesota. And like you say, it could go beyond just people looking the other way. People might have had a campaign donation incentive motive behind some of this stuff. And we're going to find out, and people are going to be held accountable.
From what I see, there's no question that some very high-profile Democrats in your state were more than happy to allow this fraud to happen. They knew it was happening because at the end of the day, it benefited them, and they don't care at all about the money that Americans work so hard for to send to the government. They couldn't care less. Heads should roll. It should be the end of a lot of political careers in that state, and I think Republicans hopefully can gain some ground at the state level in Minnesota. I don't know how anybody votes for a Democrat in the upcoming elections after what they've seen here. It's just such a humiliation, and it's so sad for people that work so hard to send 30, 40, 50% of their money to the federal government, and to see a story like this. Congressman, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for reporting me.
Of course, yeah. All right, coming up here, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Some of those popular ideas for hardworking, middle-class Americans are being aggressively blocked by blue state Democrats who claim that they fight for the working class. What's up next?
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back. Break away to what's possible with Tremfya. With symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, and lasting remission at 1 year. Some even saw visible healing of the intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Halfway doesn't win fights. We show up every day. I'm proud to partner with Balance of Nature, real whole fruit and vegetable ingredients. Nothing halfway.
Lock in 50% off for 1 year when you subscribe to the Whole Health System.
Derriere, Caboose, Booty. Badunkadunk. No matter what you call it, if you have hemorrhoids, your tushy is no laughing matter. So don't use a cream that treats your rear end like a joke. Get serious relief with Recticare Advanced Hemorrhoidal Cream. Recticare Advanced is seriously effective with 2 powerful medicines for rapid dual-action relief, soothing the uncomfortable swelling, itching, and pain of your hemorrhoids. For serious hemorrhoid relief for your buns, get Recticare Advanced.
It all started in 2022 when the Biden administration weaponized the U.S. dollar and imposed sanctions upon Russia. Central banks around the globe moved out of dollar-denominated assets and into gold. Jamie Dimon said gold could easily go to $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce. Gold recently surpassed its inflation-adjusted all-time high. Silver's inflation-adjusted all-time high is $209 an ounce.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide, home of the No Fee for Life IRA. See how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
All right, so the next time you hear a liberal declare that Democrats are the party of the working class, feel free to laugh right in their face. Right now, the blue states in this country are actively blocking the most popular parts of President Trump's big, beautiful bill. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, massively popular with working class Americans, and Democrats are doing every single thing that they can to keep that money for themselves. In Washington, D.C., in the district, they have voted to suspend multiple tax provisions in the law. New York State has indicated it will continue taxing its residents on their tips and overtime pay. No, they want to keep the money. Illinois not adopting no tax on tips and overtime. Colorado rejecting no tax on overtime pay as well. All of these Democrat strongholds declining to extend state-level tax breaks. And they make this move as we see this story in Minneapolis that we just talked about, reminding us all that most of the money that they steal from your paycheck, they just light on fire because they don't care. Dems claim to be worried about budget shortfalls as a reason why they're trying to hurt the hardest working people in this country. Budget shortfalls that they created with their outrageous spending. Senator Markwayne Mullin joins us now. And I'll start, sir, with why would any working person, somebody that works really hard, why would they ever vote for a Democrat at this point? I mean, the unions have held a lot of that vote together for a while, but doesn't this just slap you right in the face?
Well, Rob, a lot of the unions are breaking right now. I was recently in Oregon meeting with several union groups, and I tell you what, they were more upset at their leadership continually supporting the Democrat Party when the Democrat Party has left them. Keep in mind, not one single Democrat voted for these tax cuts. Not one single Democrat in the House, not one single Democrat in the Senate voted to relieve the senior citizens that live off Social Security by not taxing them. Not one person voted for the waiter or the waitress to receive no tax on tips. Not one single Democrat voted for these line workers and factory workers and bridge builders and plumbers and electricians and iron workers to receive no tax on overtime. Instead, they all voted to absolutely tax them. And so what you're seeing now is blue states are doing the exact same thing because the blue states are leading politicians are leading these blue states like California, like Oregon, like Washington, like Massachusetts or Minneapolis. And that's why you're seeing these companies leave, Rob. They're leaving left and right and coming to places like Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, why wouldn't they be? I want to talk about, obviously cost of living, affordability has gotten a new focus from the White House, which I think is a smart move as Democrats try and play this game, pretending that it's not their fault why everything's so expensive. The administration announcing that they're really trying to hype up what we're about to see in this new year when we do our tax returns here in February, March, April, when people get to it. Besson is saying this is going to be just fantastic for the American worker. Take a listen.
we're going to have a gigantic refund year in the first quarter because no one changed working Americans did not change their withholding. So I think households could see, depending on the number of workers, $1,000, $2,000 refunds. They will change their withholding schedule at the beginning of the year, and they will get an automatic increase in real wages.
Is the belief that when people feel that, is that going to be a moment where, hopefully Americans start feeling a little better about their situation? I think that they feel better than they probably would like to admit, because when you look around, all the restaurants are still busy and people are still spending a lot of money. The economy is very healthy. But is that going to be the umph that could potentially help you guys in the midterms coming up in November?
Oh, Rob, keep in mind, most of the tax provisions that's in the One Big Beautiful Bill are retroactive for 2025. So what Secretary Bassett is saying is when people get their tax provisions back, they're going to actually see that because of the amount of deductions they didn't change their provisions for. So they were claiming, like, say you got 6 kids, like my wife and I. Well, the child tax deduction doubled on that. When you got the overtime, where you had been paying all this overtime, you didn't change your deductions. Instead, you kept them the same. So now that a certain percentage of that overtime is not going to be charged to you. And the same thing with waiters and waitresses. So because they didn't change it, they're going to get a bigger tax return. Then, that since the provision has changed, they're going to be able to change their deduction ratio on for 2026. And so that's what Secretary Bassett was saying, is that they're going to be able to bring home more money and they're going to get a larger tax return, which is why you're going to see the second quarter increase dramatically with bring home pay. So yes, it could, but really what we're doing was doing something right for the American people. Republicans believe that it's better for you to keep it in your hometown, in your pocket, than to send it to politicians in Washington, D.C. that can never receive enough tax revenue. And by the way, when we do, we just spend more. We don't balance our books with it. So Republicans are investing in our communities, investing in our hometowns, investing in our states, saying that, listen, you spend it better than Washington, D.C., but the Democrats, unfortunately, are fighting us every step of the way.
Who would have thought that it's better in the pocket of the person that earned it rather than in a politician or in a Somali daycare? Who would have ever thought that? Senator Markwayne Mullin, good to see you, my man. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right. Trump with Netanyahu today wants to move on to phase 2 in Gaza and remove the cancer of Hamas. How realistic is that? We're going to discuss it coming up next.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric that helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Samaritan's Purse is ready to show the love of Christ to people in the most difficult circumstances. But we can't go without you. With your support, we can build homes, heal hearts, provide critical relief, and bring hope to a world in need. Donate now at SamaritansPurse.org. Let's get to work in Jesus' name.
Pick up. Joe, pick up the phone. Open up, man.
Connection saves lives. Reach out and check in on a loved one today.
Hungry Root is here, and I needed it because my fridge is super empty.
It's so easy to just whip together a quick, healthy meal.
Head to hungryroot.com for healthy groceries and simple recipes. Plus, get free veggies for life.
Is your bath old and outdated, maybe even unsafe? In just one day, Jacuzzi gives you the safety you need and the personal style you want, all at a price you'll love. So your bathroom can go from this to this, this to this, or even this to this. And right now, we're waiving all installation costs and offering no interest or payments for a year.
Go to jacuzzibathremodel.com or call 800-384-6902.
It's fun for me to win on the course, but it's even more fun to win on Deal Dash.
Lori won $2,000 Tiffany earrings for just $1, and Joseph won an iPad for just $6. There's millions of fast auctions, so try today at DealDash.com for $50 of free credit and your first win guaranteed.
I'm an artist, and I'm in my studio. I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor, and I've got pain in my neck, and it's getting worse, and I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later, and I've got much better range of motion. I'm able to carry these big canvases around. I'm just very, very grateful that I gave the product a try.
If pain is affecting your life, give Relief Factor a try. Call or go online. Get your 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor.
There are only a few men I'd trust with my life. 2 of them built this wallet. I've known the guys behind Proof for nearly 20 years, and we've been through hell and back together. When they told me they were building the wallet, I just said, bill me now, I'm in. This isn't some fashion piece. This isn't just some trend. These wallets are a direct reflection of the kind of men who built it. It's built to last, built to function, and designed to carry everything you need and more. If anything happens to it, they'll take care of it. No questions, no fine print. If you knew the guys who created this wallet, you wouldn't carry anything else. Go check them out, because they built this thing right.
We talked about Hamas and we talked about disarmament, and they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm, and we'll see how that works out. If they don't disarm, as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them, and we don't want that. We're not looking for that, but they have to disarm within a fairly short period of time.
All right, so Trump doing this kind of working vacation down at Mar-a-Lago. He had Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in today, a bilateral presser after the two leaders met here in South Florida. Trump wants to move on to phase 2 of his peace plan, which involves completely disarming Hamas, getting Hamas effectively out of Gaza, Israeli military withdrawals as well, and then the reconstruction plan of Gaza. So it's a big phase, right? This is where we're trying to move to. The president also warning Iran to not even think about nuclear development one day after Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, said this. We are at total war with the United States, Israel, and Europe. They want to bring our country to its knees. Indications that maybe they're trying to rebuild what Trump just destroyed with that beautiful bombing from a few months ago. Here was Trump's response today.
I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading that they're building up weapons and other things. And I hope they're not doing it, because we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2. It's a 37-hour trip both ways. I don't want to waste a lot of fuel.
All right, Rebecca Grant is a national security analyst. Josh Hammer is the host of the Josh Hammer Show. Both join us now. Good to have you both here. Josh, what did you take away from the meeting, and what are your thoughts on the reality of phase 2 at this point?
Yeah, Rob, I thought it was a very productive meeting. Both leaders seemed to be on the same page. There was a lot of speculation as to which way this meeting might go. Let's not forget, Rob, that this meeting took place in the broader context of increasing questioning, shall we say, of this particular bilateral relationship from all across the political spectrum, not just on the left, but increasingly on some parts of the quote-unquote right. So it was very reassuring, I think, to those of us who still support this crucial, vital alliance. It's very reassuring to see these two leaders very much still be on the same page. Trump even gave Bibi essentially his imprimatur of legitimacy when it comes to possible Israeli action against Iran's ballistic missile program. So a lot of positives, I think, to take away from this, Rob, and we'll see where it goes from here. But for now, I think we should all be very happy.
Yeah. Rebecca, the relationship looks very strong. They obviously still like each other. The president is still very much in support of Israel. He hasn't been swayed by all the ridiculous propaganda that we've been fed from some others on the right. But this is very ambitious, what they want to do. They want to get Hamas out of Gaza. How difficult is that to complete? We're seeing, that a lot of the first part of this plan has been difficult to put into place.
The difficult next step is to get that international stabilization force in. In the agreement, Hamas is not supposed to have any role in the governance of Gaza. And yet there's Hamas trying to select some new leaders, trying to come back. Trump was incredibly strong that there will be obviously a military price to pay if Hamas keeps that up. And I think very much underscored by his incredibly strong messaging to Iran, basically saying, hey, The B-2s, the 509th Bomb Wing, they have plenty more target folders on your missile complex if we need them. So bringing back that military pressure, which is what has always led to progress over Gaza.
Yeah. Before I let you guys go, just got a few seconds left here. Want to just get to Ukraine, Zelensky, you know, and your feelings on how potentially close this one is. Josh, I'll start with you. Go ahead.
You know, Rob, this is the peace deal that kind of just like won't happen, right? To me, I mean, they're trying really hard. The White House deserves a lot of credit for putting in all this tremendous effort. They've met with Putin, they've met with Zelensky, they've applied pressure to Putin, they've applied pressure to Zelensky. It's not entirely obvious to me what more they could do. Sometimes it's just really, really hard to get a deal. This is the big foreign policy question for me, Rob, heading into 2026, along with Maduro and Venezuela. To me, those are the two global hotspot issues that I will be paying very close attention to in the first few months of 2026.
Yeah, I'm so curious what ends up happening in Venezuela. Rebecca, though, on Ukraine, you know, did you feel more optimistic after the meeting on Sunday?
Yes, Trump and Zelensky both looked very satisfied, and unfolding is a really good economic future for Ukraine, of course, backed up, as Zelensky said, with U.S. air defenses and the military and security guarantees. I think they're going to get a deal in 2026.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. Rebecca, Josh, good to see you both. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Make sure to tune in, actually, tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Greta Van Susteren interviews the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Don't miss that one. All right. Coming up here, our Justice Department is now going after companies that are engaging in DEI practices. That's next.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 91 years of age, with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, neither of us have any kind of sickness, and we're as flexible as we were 30 years ago, and we still do the physical things we did 30 years ago. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you. You won't believe it. Immuno 150 is an awesome nutritional supplement. There's nothing like it.
Yes, it really is incredible.
Yeah, try it. You will be surprised. Order online or call the number listed on the screen, but don't place your order until after you've watched the videos on our website. Thank you from both of us, and God bless.
This is a story about the one. The one who looks to Grainger to make sparks fly. Getting it done right is a craft. It takes experience, the right material, and the right partner like Grainger, with a wide range of professional-grade products. For the one, working hard means others can play even harder. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I'm Chef Gary LeBlanc. 2025 has seen some of the worst natural disasters this country has ever experienced. That's why during this season of giving, Mercy Chefs is returning to these communities that have lost so much, providing holiday meals and reminding families they have not been forgotten as they struggle to rebuild their lives.
People like Mercy Chef who bring hot meals, it means so much because we can't always do that right now in this condition. So
I don't know what we would have done without Mercy Chefs helping us out.
Mercy Chef's core mission is simple. Just go feed people, because these free, hot, nutritious meals are a vital lifeline to children, the elderly, or to anyone who needs it.
You know, Jesus said, look, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. And it is the hands and the feet of Jesus to come do this.
Unfortunately, the holiday season can be especially difficult for families already struggling. Your contribution is crucial to the mission. Thank you and God bless.
To donate, call 894-MERCY.
I wish my TV provider let me choose what I pay for.
Sling lets you do that.
I like the sound of that.
Choose and customize your channel lineup or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
At Ancestry, we believe every question about the past is a spark. And when curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. How is your family woven into 250 years of U.S. history? Find out now, before our sale ends.
Welcome back. The Trump administration, the DOJ, launching investigations into the use of DEI at major U.S. companies. The DOJ is going after companies that engage in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's a really big deal. According to the Wall Street Journal, they're using a federal law that's meant to punish businesses that cheat the government. Under the umbrella of the False Claims Act, the Justice Department embracing the theory that holding a federal contract while still considering diversity, equity, and inclusion when hiring is considered fraud against the government. Alphabet's Google, Verizon, among the list of public and privately held companies with federal contracts that are under investigation for this DEI fraud. What I love about this is Kari Lake joins us tonight. Is that Kari? They're using any way they can to go after what is such an insidious practice in this country, in a country that's all about merit and hard work. To have DEI is so toxic, and they're saying we got to figure out a way to go after these people to stop it from ever happening again.
Yeah, you got to get creative. There's a lot of laws on the books, and it looks like they found one, and they believe they can root out this absolutely horrific DEI practice, which is, of course, a practice that is racist. I mean, we're not a racist country. Why should we allow for racism in our hiring practices? That's been going on for far too long. You're right. We are a country based on merit. Hard work will get you ahead, and that's what the Trump administration wants to move back toward.
Absolutely. Zohran Mamdani here in New York has his pick for the FDNY commissioner, the first openly gay woman to lead the department, has no operational firefighting experience, name's Lillian Bonsignor right there on the left, leads EMS operations for the fire department. I have no doubt that in the current position that she holds, she's likely to be competent. She had that position under Eric Adams, who's a fairly sensible mayor in this city and has a much more sensible governance of the city. But the fact that it seems to me, and you see this a lot, especially with someone like Mamdani, is they're so desperate to find, you got to find anybody that's got pronouns, anybody that's got something unique, unusual to run it, because that's the only thing that they're looking at. I thought we learned this lesson. I thought people were over this nonsense, and yet here we are.
Yeah, they want to check the box, you know. Frankly, I don't care who you're sleeping with. I just don't want to hear about it. And that goes for whether you're straight or gay. I mean, I think most people feel that they miss the days when you just didn't advertise that and talk about that. You keep some things private. You have a private life and you have a public life and a professional life. And I think people are getting really sick of that. And I would think that they've learned their lesson. I even think I've got many friends who happen to be gay. They're tired of it. They're tired of just being defined by that, and they don't want that either. Let's define people by the content of their character, what they do, how they help, how they make improvements and bring improvements to this world, rather than what's going on in their private life in their bedroom.
Yeah, and just the idea that if Lillian Bonsignor was a straight woman, everybody now wonders, would she have actually gotten this job? Or certainly if she were.
Or God forbid, in this
else.
world, a straight white male. My God. I mean, goodness gracious.
The worst.
They have been demonized, and I think everyone's recognizing that now.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's not a firefighter, you know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, and that's why it makes sense, because it's Zohran the moron, who takes over here in about 3 days. Kari Lake, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Happy New Year. All right, a Met star with a communist wife and a $300 million contract up next.
Poverty is unimaginable. There are people who are struggling.
This is where she washes the dishes.
If you're ever going to allow your Christian faith to rise and to do something for God's chosen people, now is the time.
This is the home of Galina. She's 96 years old.
This is what she had to eat for today.
She has one pot with water and wheat.
My father was killed by the Nazis, and I was an orphan. I didn't know about God. But now, in the cold, hungry nights, I pray for food to the God I've never known. There are good people that love you.
You see the tears. Scripture says joy can come in the morning, and you can be the reason.
Right now in Ukraine, elderly Jews are trapped in unbearable poverty. If you will bless these hurting children of Israel, you will receive God's blessing in return. Your urgent gift today of $25 will help rush a survival food box filled with life-saving essentials. Call, scan, or go online now.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, I don't know how much longer she could have waited for us to come.
I can't even grow my food anymore. What will happen to me? I'm doomed to starve.
Tens of thousands of elderly Holocaust survivors in the former Soviet Union are living in extreme poverty, hungry, and forgotten. But through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, we can bring them hope.
Eggs. It's my favorite food. May you be blessed.
You say to them, we see you and we're here to help.
Please don't delay. Call, scan, or go online now.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Most investors believe their IRA, 401k, and bank accounts are reliable and safe. But what if our economy becomes so dire that you're restricted from accessing your own money? The fact is that should your bank be in trouble for holding bad loans, the burden could fall on you to help bail them out. Even more concerning is that U.S. financial regulations allow banks to impose withdrawal limits on your hard-earned savings. But there's something you can do about it. Our team at Swiss America has a report called The Secret War on Cash. Learn how to protect yourself with assets that can remain outside the control of banks and other financial institutions. For over 40 years, Swiss America has been one of the most trusted metal firms in the country. So don't wait. Call or text the number on your screen today for financial peace of mind in these uncertain times.
This little light of mine, in the dark found a hopeful sign.
For those with depression not getting enough relief from their antidepressant, adding Caplyta can help you let in the light, providing greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. And unlike some medications, Caplyta is also proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. Far left Queens, New York Assembly candidate Aber Kawas, backed by Mamdani, of course, apparently hates American holidays. Writing in an online journal resurfaced from back in 2015, she said, whether it's July 4th, Thanksgiving, Veterans, Columbus, or now Labor Day, we enjoy days off that are supposed to be victories for people when they truly represent the silencing and destruction of our movements. Yes, we have another person in New York City that absolutely hates this country. This is a society that we're living in right now that is begging to be conquered by people that absolutely hate us. We are surrounded by this element. It's extremely dangerous. Next up, the wife of New York Mets superstar shortstop Francisco Lindor, a talented young man, finding herself a spot on Mamdani's inaugural committee. This young lady named Katia has never done anything really impressive at all. She's a podcaster who married a baseball player. She's using her platform to become a social justice advocate, though, including sharp criticisms of the rich. Before the election in November, she posted on her Instagram story, supporting politicians who fight for immigrants, artists, workers, and everyone who deserves a dignified life isn't against my interests, even if I'm in a different economic position. So this young lady who's done nothing her whole life except be pretty and find a baseball player is now going to be some kind of a political big name in politics. She's going to try to do something here. By the way, her husband signed a $341 million contract, $34 million a year. to play baseball, and she's going to try and make some waves in politics now, it would seem. And finally, remember this moment from Pelosi tearing up Trump's 2020 State of the Union address? Well, Pelosi now says it was never her actual intention. Take a listen.
I didn't intend to go to speech to tear it up, but I just, the first part of it, I tore a page because he was lying, and then the next page, and then the next page, and I thought it was a manifesto of lies all throughout. So I better just tear up the whole speech. Now, the speeches are on strong paper. They're on, So you have to do it a few times to get it done. But I had no intention of doing it. I thought my staff was going to die.
She's the biggest con artist ever, by the way. Ask how her and her husband have made tens of millions of dollars off of her being in Congress. How many secrets did you tell your husband about how you guys could get rich and you act like you're so virtuous? The Rainbow Mafia over at Netflix destroys one of its most popular shows. That's up next.
He's breathing. Okay. Go again.
Children account for 75% of choking deaths.
That's why I recommend everyone have a life vac in your home, car, or business.
The life vac is simple to use. Just place, push, and pull.
Its suction removes an obstruction out of the airway quickly, saving a life.
If you use your life vac for an emergency, we'll replace it for free. Order now.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sono Bello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sono Bello.
I had some loose, wiggly skin, and it is no longer there thanks to Sono Bello.
Our expert surgeons use micro laser technology to safely target and remove your diet-resistant fat and tighten loose skin permanently.
I wanted the results of a tummy tuck, but not the downtime. I had a 10 out of 10 experience.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform, and we're proud to be America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
In just one visit, Sono Bello got rid of my love handles and my belly fat.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach. Call Sono Bello. Get in there for your free consultation. Do this for you.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today.
Introducing Stogo, the only apparel with adjustable medical-grade support engineered with high-strength cables that reinforce the body, designed to help you overcome injuries, minimize pain, and regain the confidence to get back out there. Learn more at Stogo.com.
From the moment Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, Newsmax was there.
We have some major breaking news. Israel launches strikes, preemptive strikes, almost 4 in the morning.
Israel has decided enough's enough.
What happened tonight was inevitable.
Well, something just caught my attention of it sounds like afterburners overhead.
Reporting multiple explosions across the capital, Tehran.
I'm in a shelter now. There's 6 of us.
Benjamin Netanyahu has come out to make a statement.
Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Whenever the biggest news breaks, Newsmax is there for you because we're real news for real people.
Welcome back. The woke weenies at Netflix have destroyed another iconic franchise, Stranger Things, sci-fi horror series that takes place in Hawkins, Indiana during the 1980s. People love this show. Kids are fighting creatures from the upside-down world, and apparently now in Season 5, out of complete left field, out of nowhere, one of maybe the most main character is suddenly gay.
I don't like girls. I mean, I do, just not like you guys do.